I'm just glad you remembered, buddy.
Yeah.
Then it went the same thing that I turned around and I was like, oh, that clock is wrong. I gotta change that. You're gonna see it again.
Anything I can do to keep you on your toes, I'm more than willing to do.
You know, I appreciate that, Jay.
Yeah.
Are you hiding an elf on the shelf?
Not in my office. Most people here don't believe it's there anymore.
That's too bad.
I know. At home, though, yes.
Yeah.
And we have like a Santa cam and we got all kinds of stuff.
Santa cam.
Trying to keep them on their toes.
5:15.
Used to be leaving Santa a note and a six-pack of beer was all you needed to do.
Yeah, all right.
Yep. Okay, official Apple time is 5:15, so we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. This is the December meeting of the Board of Aviation Commissioners for the City of Warsaw. You should all have received your packages and the agenda, and the first thing on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from the November meeting.
I make a motion to accept the minutes as presented.
I will second that.
Been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carried. Next, claims. What do you have particularly for us, Nick?
Big ones that you guys will notice, Series Solutions, $2,402.27. We got in our load of winter diesel fuel and some unleaded gas for our plow trucks. Make sure we were good to go at the beginning of the season here. Nothing too much else. The Napa is a little bit high this month, $1,280.76. I'm very excited to announce we officially have a working Type 1 de-ice truck at the airport. So that is a service we now provide for our customers. That was a big thing that several of our transient customers, Air Cargo, Imager, and Zimmer all were excited that we have a Type 1 truck now. So if they need to do a quick turn and it's snowing, we can get them cleaned off and get back in the air pretty quick.
Is
So
that truck dedicated just for that?
that truck only de-ices. That's the only thing it can do. Yep.
Where'd we get that?
What's that?
Where'd we get that?
That was one of those where a friend of a friend heard about it and called me and said, hey, Purdue is selling their backup unit if you guys want it. And let's just say it was mechanic special. And I have a lot of thanks and gratitude to the street department. Their mechanics did an awesome job. And so we were able to pick that truck up for about $4,000. And I think we've got a total of about $7,500 total in parts and everything else. And yeah, I mean, we ourselves are not going to be applying the de-ice fluid. We are contracting with Morrison Aviation Services. They're the mechanic on the field, and they have someone who has gone through the training for that. And so it is cheaper for us to employ them to actually put the product down. They also carry the insurance for that, so our insurance doesn't go up. So we carry insurance to cover the product and the actual vehicle, and then they operate the vehicle and apply it to the aircraft. We bill the aircraft, and then Morrison sends us a bill at the end of the month for their services provided for the month. So
Does it have a boom too?
it does. Yep. It will de-ice any aircraft up to about a Gulfstream 550 size is about what it'll.
Great.
And it'll also do a 650, but that's because it's actually shorter than a 550 is. So
Hey, Nick, there's an amount of $1,013.95 going to Treasurer of Kosciuszko County. Is that ditch assessment?
it is. Yep.
Okay.
They changed how they are calculating the ditch assessment. So I'm working with Jeremy and Justin to try and combine the parcels at the airport, because there is now a minimum $50 per parcel
Yep.
or a flat rate per acreage. And so we are working on trying to combine that so we can get the whole airport, and that will lower that bill, we're guessing, by about 50 or 60% for next year. So
Did you
Okay.
do some of that already?
we did a lot of the research, but actually combining everything, because some of our parcels are county and some of our parcels are city, it's a little bit more complicated to get everything all together. So we're working through that.
Thank you.
Yep. And then we've got our Ascent Aviation, $90,605.37. And the R.A. Ross and Associates, Linda, remind me what that one was. That's right, the Av truck needed some work on it. We had the main shutoff valve when you're bottom loading the truck to refill it after fueling was not shutting off. And so unless we had a guy standing on top of the truck watching the fuel come up, it would overfill.
See,
And
that's a
so,
problem, John.
yeah,
That is a
that's not
problem,
great.
yes.
And with winter coming, we wanted to make sure that was fixed so that we didn't have guys standing on top of a truck in snow and ice trying to refill it. So, again, a huge thanks to the street department, specifically Joe down there. They really helped us out and got a lot of that done for a lot cheaper than having to send it out for a few weeks and pay for a rental truck. They were able to do all of that in-house.
Okay. Any further questions? If not, I'll entertain a motion on the subject.
I move we accept the claims as presented, including the Accent Aviation for $90,605.37 and Associates for $2,245.
I'll second that.
Been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. Motion carried. Okay, Robert, it's your turn. What you got for us tonight?
My time to shine.
Yeah.
Okay, let me figure out how to share a screen here, and we're gonna do just fine.
It's the box with the arrow in the bottom.
I got it, I got that part. I am not shining too brightly right now. Can you guys see it? It kind of splits everything up. I may have to zoom in, just let me know.
Yeah, might need to zoom in a little.
Just to preface everything tonight, I have 5 board actions, 4 invoices, and then we're gonna run through the CIP. I'll answer any questions, and then we'll go from there. So for the first 2 on the list, the general services agreement, task order number 8, and the runway 27 obstruction mitigation project. That's the power line project. There's no update this month, no invoice, just ongoing as reported previously, no change to the schedule. For the runway 927 safety area phase 1, we finalized the documentation and submitted that and the forecast to the FAA for review. And with those tasks in, I need a motion for the board approval and Jay's signature on THA invoice 58412.5-7, which is $94.96.84 with a local match of $474.84.
So moved.
Probably pull that right invoice, huh?
Okay, been moved. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Been moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carried.
Very good, thank you, gentlemen. And that is, you should have that right there for signature, Jay. The next one is the wildlife hazard site visit. There was no invoice last month, but we did commence work. If you remember, we did the site visit where we stayed overnight, looking around for animals. We have the documentation complete. That is pending quality control and submittal to Nick, so that is coming imminently. Our PM for that project is on vacation in California right now, but as soon as he is back, Nick will have that in his hand. And so for that site visit and all of that work, we have an invoice 58412.502, which is for $27,735.70 with a local match of $1386.79. Any questions on that?
No,
Do I hear a motion on that subject?
I make a motion that we pay this bill for, what is it, 27?
No. CH invoice 58412.5-2. Is that what you meant, Gene?
Yes, sir.
I thought you did, yeah.
I'll second it.
Okay. Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carried.
Very good. On the next one, on the next two, really, if you remember, we kind of talked about we're combining these as almost one project, but separate for documentation purposes. Taxiway, or taxi lane, E1, Echo 1, the rehabilitation and reconstruction, which is task order 6, and taxiway Bravo, rehabilitation, which is task order 7. Both of those have had the same work commenced with survey and geotech. And so the first invoice for those two projects is for sub-consultant work for Align and Altwitzig. And so for task order 6, need a motion to approve invoice 58412.6-1. That totals $26,319.94. And if you remember that this is the state grant that we're working under here, so there is no local match.
So
What was
We
that
are-
amount again?
It's 26,319.94.
Yep.
This is something we are paying out of pocket up front, and then we will be reimbursed. Rob, if I can step in real quick, I
Yeah.
just found out actually yesterday that the next budget committee meeting is going to be on the 19th of December. So I will be driving down to the State House Monday night. I need to be down at the State House at 8 a.m. and on Tuesday, and we'll get that grant going with them. Speaking with NDOT Office of Aviation, they're saying the turnaround time for these grants is very quick. So we're hoping sometime beginning of July, or beginning of January, we can get that in place and start drawing down to cover that project.
So we have to have you go down to the budget committee? Okay.
But I'm also gonna have meetings with CHA and NDOT Office of Aviation, so we're gonna be killing three birds with one stone, so we'll make a day productive out of it.
And basically, Rob, the taxi lane and taxi rehab, if you were just looking at what you were doing, you're just doing one big set of work and you're dividing it artificially between these two different projects, is that?
That is correct, yeah. I wouldn't say artificially, but yes, we are dividing it between the two projects.
Right, okay.
Yeah, but it just made it advantageous from a dollar perspective to have them out there at the same time doing the same stuff.
Yeah,
So
okay.
that's why both of the work on both projects is the same right now. And so once we get that survey and geotech back, we'll actually really start the design.
And do we physically, Nick, do we go ahead and write checks ahead of time and then we get the money from the state back?
We will, yep.
Okay. Do I hear a motion on 58412.6-1?
Yep. So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carried. And then the second invoice is the 58412.7-1. Do I hear a motion on that one?
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any further discussion?
What was the dollar total on that one?
46651.60.
Again, slower?
Sure. 46651.60.
Okay, thank you.
Sure, and that's also a state grant. There's no match for that.
That is correct.
It's just these two, right?
Yeah.
Been moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say nay. Motion carried.
Very good.
Okay, got 4 of them done. One more, right?
Yeah, last order of
Okay.
business is the CIP. So as you gentlemen are aware, every year, we have to update the CIP for NDOT and the FAA. This year, there are some changes to the CIP. We did add the terminal program that we were talking about, that would be Bill ATP. We do not significantly increase the local matching funds. We've got $79,499 in there. Based on some conversation with FAA, we did move up the environmental and some of the design for the runway 927 rehabilitation. So in year 1, we have taxiway Bravo, taxiway E1, We have the rehabilitation of 927.
Can you zoom in on that, Rob?
Yes, I can.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Perfect.
That's much better, thank you, yeah.
Yeah, so in year one, we have Bravo and Echo. And then also in year one, we have the rehabilitation of 927, and the bid and construction for taxiway E1. So a lot of this is the state reimbursement grant. What's new here is we've shifted closer, the rehabilitation of 927, because the rehabilitation of taxiway Bravo, which we originally had in here as an FAA project, is being funded in part by the state project, or the state grant. So Nick was able to find the money, obviously. We got the grant, and so that bumped up the program $2 million to be able to advance the program more strategically and at a faster timeline. So all good things. The future projects for the next couple years are the bid and construction phases of those projects, 927, taxiway Bravo. We have the terminal program phased in here, and remember, that's a build ATP project, so it's very competitive. This may be not on, or maybe a little bit further out in subsequent years, depending on some grant applications that'll go in this year. So what I'm trying to say is that is not a foregone conclusion, as we discussed last time, that this was going to happen here, but we are going to try to take a stab at potentially putting that project on the books or in front of the FAA in the next couple of years.
And Rob, the funding for that, the projected funding for that really does not compete with projected funding for these the taxiway and other projects. Is that a fair thing to say?
That is correct. Yep, it does not. Yeah, so this is a completely separate bucket of money.
Rob, remind me, there's $500 million in that bucket, and last year there was like $7 billion worth of applications or something like that.
I think your first number is a little low, but yes, essentially what Nick is trying to say is there's a lot of money in there, but there's a lot more competition for it. And so we're gonna try. We're gonna put our best foot forward. We're not gonna back down from it. That's
Yep.
for sure. But how the FAA decides to spend their money is still on the FAA. And then so really for the first 1 to 5 years, we have the design, the construction for those projects that we talked about. Or the design and the environmental for what we just talked about, and then in the following 3 years, we have the bid and construction for those projects to get completed. So hopefully by the end of the 5-year program, we have a rehabilitated taxiway 927, taxiway Bravo, taxiway E1, taxiway D3. I would say it's a very advantageous CIP, but one we're pretty confident in. Are there any questions from the board on the CIP?
So you just need approval of this for filing with the state, right?
So now, yep, I'd like to request a motion. Well, so this will get submitted, and we need your signature on the cover letter that submits this CIP to NDOT and the FAA. And so my motion would be for board approval and Jay's signature on the CIP for submittal to government agencies.
When is that due by?
When's it due, Rob?
It was due a week ago, I think.
It was due a week ago.
I called the state.
Full disclosure, I was supposed to bring this to you guys last month, and I did a super job with what I brought you, I feel like, but I forgot this.
Luckily, we've been working with the state all summer. They knew what was going to be in our CIP, and they said Jay's signature is more formality. They know that the plans for the airport are we've had the same direction for quite a while, getting pavement replaced.
He'd have remembered, but he was distracted by his clock issues last
Yeah.
month.
That was an issue,
Yes, I recall that.
Technical difficulties, yeah.
Do you have a hard copy of this, Nick?
I do, and I can get you one if you would like it.
I would.
I can
Yeah,
do that.
I'd distribute or email them out.
Yeah.
Did you hear that, Rob?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think
Yeah.
it's also important to note that Rob and I met with FAA and NDOT both to discuss the CIP. And one of the things that they really pushed out of this was we were focused on projects that weren't pavement last year. And we looked at them and said, yeah, we put in there what you guys asked us to put in there. And they said, well, we really want you to focus on pavement. We said, great, we can do that. And so that's why we added in some of that. I mean, the taxiways and taxi lanes weren't different, but to add in that center section of 927, that's probably the second most complained about piece of asphalt on the airfield that's not currently planning to get replaced. Bravo is number one, 927 is number two. And so being able to get the state grant for E1, which is the main corporate taxi lane, that was a huge weight off of our shoulders because that's a project that will get ticked off. And now being in the design phase for Bravo and then being able to move into 927 immediately following is going to be really, really good for the airport. So it'll position us in a really good place, I think.
And since the power line project has already been approved, that's why it's not on here now?
Correct.
That is correct, yep.
And that's still slated to be done. I think they're hoping for like October.
Yeah, there's no change to the schedule. I mean, it sounds to me like they're gonna be out there doing stuff sooner than later.
Yep.
Just some prep work and some earthwork and getting some of the machines out there and stuff like that. So I think sooner rather than later, we're gonna start seeing some bodies out there.
When you see bodies out there, you email all of us so we can drive out and look at
And,
it.
and see it.
Okay?
Yep.
I want to see it.
Especially Gene.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been
Yeah.
waiting.
Yeah, I know.
They have been making their procurements and there does not seem to be any delay in any of the materials at this moment. And so I would think by now, if we were gonna take delivery of some of those materials in early spring, that we would know if there's gonna be a delay. There is longer lead times on some of the projects or on some of the materials, but I feel like AEP got them in on time. So far so good, no change, which is at least somewhat positive.
Yeah. Okay. Any motions on the CIP?
What do we need it to be? Just so you're for your
Just need
signature?
to have
an
your
authorized my
signature.
So.
Okay. I move that we authorize Jay to sign the CIP as presented.
Second,
Okay, been moved and seconded to authorize the presented CIP. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Motion granted.
Awesome. Thank you, gentlemen. That's all I got for you.
Okay,
Thanks, Robert.
Thanks, Robert.
take care.
And Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, gentlemen.
All right. And that leaves me.
Yep,
Right.
you're next.
Well, I don't have a whole lot on fuel usage or the income statement. As you guys can see, I think my predictions for the year are going to be pretty close. I think we're going to be down about 15 to 20% in fuel sales from where we were last year. Part of that's economy, part of that is a leadership transition here locally. We are starting to see more local corporate pick back up. I think we've got 11 or 12 flights on the books the rest of this week, just with Zimmer alone. So we are very busy. We've got half a dozen or so. This is that time of year where it's kind of weird in December. we're either really dead or just we cannot keep the truck going fast enough because people are flying in and out for end of year meetings. So we've not really gotten a gauge on what's going to happen in the last 2 weeks of the year, but I think we're going to finish the year out. My guess is between 160 and 170,000 gallons, down from that 198,000 where we were last year. Unless you guys have a specific question or comment on that, I just wanted to give a quick update on the terminal projects that are going on. So, as you guys know, I called you earlier this week to let you know that we had some water leaking out from underneath our kitchenette area. That was due to one of our drain pipes being faulty, and that has turned into a full restoration. I mean, they had to cut out some drywall, remove all of the trim board along the bottom of the north side of the terminal. All the carpet had to come out. Through that, we unfortunately found some asbestos. The tiles themselves were not asbestos, but the glue that held the tiles down was. I cannot say enough for our insurance team, our remediation team. WR Hall and Lake City Restoration has done a great job. The company that came in, Lake City Restoration does not do asbestos remediation. They have an outside firm, A&G Environmental Engineering, out of, I think the gentleman who owns it lives in Syracuse, but the company's out of the South Bend Elkhart area. We called him on a Tuesday. He was at the airport Wednesday afternoon, and by Saturday at 10:45 that night, all the asbestos remediation was taken care of. They did everything in one day for minimal interruptions in our day-to-day operations. So that was, they even set up temporary barriers so that the guy who was working this weekend was able to stay safe and still get everything cleaned up appropriately. So we just got our air test back and we passed with flying colors, so the remediation was officially complete as of this afternoon, so that's great. And we are hoping to have carpet down beginning of next week, and we're meeting with the some gentlemen that will do the cabinet work to reinstall our kitchenette and hopefully get us some water back, because right now we have running water in the restrooms, but we don't have drinking water or ice or coffee or any of that. And I'm sure John can attest to not just the local pilots, but the corporates coming and going. You know, they've definitely missed that as well.
It's a struggle, sure.
I cannot say enough for the groups that have been out so far. Like I said, Lake City Restoration and WR Hall and A&G Environmental Engineering were incredibly professional and have worked very hard to get us back up on our feet as quickly as possible. So they've been great to work with.
Okay. Well, it's been a pain, but you're gonna make it through.
Yeah.
Any questions about the reports for anybody from Nick? Anything else for us? David, you have anything for us?
We're gonna miss Mayor Joe.
Well, I was cutting to that.
Well, I don't want to steal your thunder.
This is gonna be Mayor Tomer's last meeting, and I tell you, in my many years of service on the board, we've not had, I think, a stronger advocate for the airport and aviation issues than Joe Tomer. And I just want to thank you for all your service, not just the airport board, but to the city of Warsaw in general. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Jay. It's been a pleasure. I've been involved. Thank you, Robert. Obviously, for the 12 years as mayor, I sit down here and I listen and I can't vote, but I feel your passion, and certainly hopefully we get the county to jump in here and create an authority. My last official commercial to do that. Smile, Dave. At any rate,
That's the best he can do.
that's right. I had to get that in. He knows I love him. At any rate, the airport is so important to our community, and being involved, watching this painful projects with the FAA take forever has really been difficult. But at the end of the day, we're getting things done. Nick, thanks to your leadership. There's not a lot to say other than, I'm not going anywhere, and I will still keep my eye on the Times Union and the reports from the meetings. I may even jump on and watch one if I don't have anything else to do. But for the most part, it's a great community, and every one of these boards that I sit on all has pretty much the same thing in mind, and that's to make our community a better community. So thank you all for your service. Gene, you've been at it a hell of a lot longer than I have. So appreciate all that, all you guys, and your expertise. You've guided us through some difficult times, and we've got a lot of good things happening. So again, any part I had in it is all because of the work you all have done. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Anything else for the good of the order tonight?
Not that I can
If
think
not,
Just keep
January
making
meeting
progress.
is January 9th.
I was just pulling it. Yes, it is.
Yes, and keep in mind, anybody who wants to change their position, become an officer of the board, this is the time to speak. So, absent that, everybody have a Merry Christmas and meeting adjourned.
Thank you.
When's the next meeting?
January 9th.
January
January
9th, yeah.
All right.
Thanks, Robert.
And Robbie, we'll talk.
And to see you, Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, brother. Bye.
Gene,
Did
thank
you
you.
good? Linda, did good?
Did good,
Yep.
yay.
good.
We'll see you guys.
See ya.
Bye.
Thank you, buddy.
Good working with you. Yep.
Yep. Jay, thank you, buddy. Appreciate the kind comments. Peace.
I'm not nice